It's like a violin string. It's it's a moment away from snapping or producing the brilliant note that just elevates.
Oh, I love that. You always bring it back to music. I love that. We just wanted to say a big thank you for everyone who's watched so far, everyone who's subscribed. And if you haven't already subscribed, we'd really appreciate it if you could just give us a little click somewhere on the screen. And we hope you enjoy this week's show. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Warren. How are you?
Bad. You good?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm very good. You'd be amazed. Cycling for 3 days in a row now in Mallorca.
Yeah.
And one starts to feel fit as a fiddle. So yeah, I'm in great form, thank you. Yes.
I'm jealous. Yeah, I'm jealous. I went out for a run today, so I'm getting there. But yeah. So you're cycling away. You're on Mallorca time, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Mallorca. It's 6:30. It's been lovely. It's nice to get some winter sun. And the beauty of a cycling holiday is you're out kind of 10:30 till 3:30 cycling, bit of coffee or lunch in the middle, and then you've got time either end of the day to do stuff. So it works out really nicely. And like I say, in my experience, you just feel really good doing it.
Yeah.
So
and how's the weather? More importantly, you get
the weather's
tan?
good. Yeah, it's windy yesterday.
Yeah.
So you get the downside, but if you've got good guides, and we have, then they generally take you out into the wind, and then you come back with the wind. So you feel like you're a professional rider on the way back, which makes up for feeling like not a professional rider on the way out.
Yeah.
But that's great, absolutely brilliant, loving it. It's really, really good. How about you? What you been running and all that sort of palaver?
Yeah, trying to get fit, trying to run. I play football once a week, but it's not enough, Paul. I need more. So went for a run today, went for a run last week, trying to get one of my things about health and fitness this year, trying to get fit. So I'm on it.
Good. Well, we'll have to do a run. We'll enter something.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
You can drag me around. How's that?
Marketing shed run. I like it.
Yeah. Exactly. So what have you been up to, work-wise?
I've been up. It's been a busy week. I went over to the Little Grey Cells. They run like every quarter, like a mini conference, like a breakfast basically, where they get kind of some of the leading marketing minds together to listen to a panel and kind of cross work, I suppose, and discuss some topical issue that they want to discuss each time. So this week was all about social media. So there was lots of interesting stuff that was discussed, but I think primarily they had a speaker on right there.
Yeah.
He had a really good perspective on social media, basically saying it's really hard to operate in. He's a straight shooter. He said more colourful language than me.
I'll just say that. You can't say it's really hard. You've got to give some solutions.
That's what he said. He said it's really hard to operate in. I suppose essentially, we've been growing up with this thing, haven't we, for years, social media. What has it been, 10, 15 years or so?
And the rest, yeah.
And the rest. So remember when it started. And I think we're still working it out, aren't we, and how it works for brands. And essentially the kind of point that was made was that these platforms were made for people to connect, not brands really.
Yeah.
And so brands have tried to operate in this space and work out how they kind of fit into the kind of picture of it and how they can connect with consumers through their platforms and through very, sort of clever ways. And one of those ways is kind of, cultural moments that people can jump on. So these things that kind of catch the zeitgeist, that they can kind of jump on, these trends that they can kind of tap into. There was one called the Dr. Pepper trend. I can't remember exactly what they had to do. It was a Dr. Pepper thing that every brand jumped onto, basically. But what their point was that so many people are doing this now, and brands are all orientated around jumping on these trends that happen. That there's no cut through. So everyone's doing the same thing. Do you remember someone who did the Dr. Pepper challenge? Probably not. It's probably just good for Dr. Pepper, right? Probably. So his point was that brands aren't really thinking about how to operate in the space very well. And he had this thing around kind of fast and slow social. So fast social is kind of, I think I'm probably telling a lot of people how to suck eggs, and yourself, Paul. But fast social
Don't
being,
count on it. Assume you're speaking to an idiot. You're probably about right.
well, fast social being the entertainment side, the thing where you're flicking through and it grabs your attention. Because brands aren't doing this well enough, aren't thinking about this well enough. And then the other side is the slow social. So that's probably developed more in recent years, where we search for things like, how do you bake a cake? Or how do you, do whatever? And you'll come across something. And that's the brand bit. That's the bit where brands can really operate in and really think about their strategy. A bit like SEO and how you turn up in the right space based on your positioning and who you are.
Mm.
And I think the overriding point was that brands have really got to think about how they apply their brand and their brand positioning and their values and their personality to social. And it won't look the same. And we know this for a while, but I think brands aren't doing it well enough, is essentially what you're saying. And I actually spoke to someone on my table when we were doing a bit of a workshop after. They worked for a big brand and they said that actually they completely shut their socials down because they wanted to do this thing based on kind of really good strategic thinking, brand thinking. They wanted to do some really powerful, bold stuff on socials, but they kind of weren't really allowed to do it essentially. So they just decided not to have their channels because they didn't see how they could engage. So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I can see why that might well happen, because when I think about social media, I think about particularly X feeds where you've got really good, fast moving responses to current affairs and messaging on X. And that seems to work quite well. Quite a lot of those get airtime and get seen. But you need really good people, and you need somebody on it all the time, and you need the ability to uh, approve things very, very quickly, which, as we know, big organizations struggle at. So yeah, that's interesting. Either go big or go home. Sounds to be the
Yeah, I
motto.
think so. And I think fundamentally it's about, they talked about having, you've got your distinctive brand assets. Obviously, you have your colours and all those other things that might work. People aren't thinking about their distinctive assets on social, and that will be fundamentally different to how you appear in an out-of-home advert or a TV advert. So you have to think about what those things might be in your social kind of content. So it might be a regular person that features in there, because you're not going to bombard your kind of content
Mm,
with brand colours, because that's just not how it works. So advice is good advice. I took it on board, and I think it's good advice for everyone to think about how they apply themselves or how they apply their brand to social going
yeah,
forward. Yeah.
love that. Love that.
What about you?
Nice.
What about
What
you?
about me? I've been eating my own dog food. You remember I spoke a couple of weeks ago about I was doing some work around brand positioning,
Yes.
and I think I said I cracked it. Obviously, no, I'm joking. I don't think I said how hard it is. But what I've been doing is having spent a bit of time teaching brand positioning. I've now been actually creating some brand positionings. And that has been really interesting because the guidance does work. It works really well, which is quite encouraging. But what I've learned is you've got to be able to think quite creatively around the guidance. So you have step one, step two, step three in how to do positioning. But if you follow it rigorously, you still don't necessarily get an insightful answer. And
Mm,
you've got to think around it, make a few mental leaps. And that's been quite interesting to do that work. It'd be interesting when I get to share it back with the customer to see what they think.
yeah.
And as part of that, what's also been fascinating is I've used ChatGPT quite extensively, not, you'll be pleased to know, to put in the question and get the answer, but as a conversational partner, to challenge, to expand, to summarize, to to wordsmith to an extent as well. And it's brilliant if you're testing multiple routes, multiple lines of investigation, hypotheses you want to check out. Um, but it only, in my experience, works if you treat it as a conversational partner, and albeit one that's got a sort of massive, massive brain in terms of processing power, but maybe not the smartest brain in terms of joining up the dots. So yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I've been up to. We'll see the fruits of that in the next few weeks, and I'll let you know if the positive impression I'm forming about applying the brand positioning thinking has actually paid off.
Just on that, Paul, go back to, so you're taking the steps to identify the position X brand, X company needs to take. And actually what you found is that even though you're doing those steps, actually it requires a leap of faith, a bit of thinking about actually positioning yourself.
It does, yeah, yeah. I mean, to be specific on that, I work through, let's understand the category. What is the category that you're operating in? What's the growth ambition? What are you looking at in terms of what's happening within the category in terms of consumers, customers, the business itself, and so on? And from that, you get a list of sources of growth. And from the sources of growth, for each source of growth, you can write a positioning. But then the interesting bit is when you've got, let's say, half a dozen sources of growth with half a dozen positionings, is you then start to say, well, in what way do those positionings overlap and could they be consolidated? So you don't end up with 8 positionings for 8 sources of growth. You end up
Yeah.
with maybe one umbrella positioning and some takes on that, maybe 2 or 3 takes on that. And that's the bit that isn't. It's very difficult to write a process to do that, or even to write guidelines. You've just got to use your noggin and your
Human
experience.
judgment.
Yeah, human
Human
judgment. Very
judgment.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. To refer to our previous episode. Yes.
Yes. Judgment. Yeah, yeah.
Great stuff. And what have you been seeing this week then, Paul, in the
What
marketing
have I
world?
been seeing this week? Well, I too went to an event. I went to Learning Live, which was run by the Learning and Performance Institute, hosted by KPMG down in Canary Wharf. I went to a
Nice.
similar event last year, and that was very, very interesting because it wasn't specific to marketing. It was about learning, and I learned about neuro.
Did you?
Yeah, and there was a brilliant talk. I've posted about it today on LinkedIn, so the folks are credited on LinkedIn. Nick and Anne Marie, they were talking about how actually it makes sense for organizations to design the employee experience around the needs of people who are neurodivergent. Because when you break it down, and people who are neurodivergent value things like clarity, predictability, choice, reduction in sort of busyness around them, which are actually things that neurotypical people
Yeah.
find really valuable and help them work better. And rather than treating neurodivergent needs as an edge case, if you treat them as a universal case and design ways of working or the workplace around those needs, you actually end up with something that's better for everybody. And it means that neurodivergent people kind of don't have to stick their hand up and say, please consider me. They just fit in. So I found that quite pleasing thinking because it kind of challenges the norm in the sense of you don't design for accommodating neurodiverse people. You design for everybody, but you have neurodiverse thinking and needs at the heart of that. So I
Yeah.
liked that, but I also liked the fact that it just seemed to make logical sense, and there's good evidence that it works well. I love it when you get um, a sort of pivot. Instead of thinking of it like this, you can turn it on its head and
Yeah.
think of it like that. So that was
Yeah.
good. That was really good. So thanks KPMG. Thank you LPI. How about you, Warren? What's been going on? What have you been seeing?
You sent me something the other day that on text about the we won't say the actual expletive, but flat whites or F offs. Rory Sutherland had spoken about it on a podcast, didn't he? A while ago. I remember seeing it, and I love Rory. I could watch his stuff all day. But he spoke about coffee shops, didn't he? So he's saying if Starbucks just did flat whites, had got them all ready and prepared so that when people came to the coffee shop, they could just get their flat white straight away, almost instantly, because everything would be prepared. Don't do any other coffee. Just do your flat white. You tap your card, you're gone off. If you're at the railway station, you need to get your train. It's easy. And I can relate to that, actually. Just before 7, had to get the train, trying to grab your coffee and run. And actually, someone has created that idea this last week and launched it near Tottenham Court Road. And they've set up their mini kind of, I think it must be a stall or, kind of mobile kind of coffee shop. And they've called it Flat Whites or F Off. And we shall see how that goes and performs. But I thought it's ingenious that they've picked up. And I have to say, they did check with Rory. So There's something in the simplicity of that, and I think the kind of core theme from Rory was that you do one thing well, or you do
Yes.
one thing, people will think you're doing that really well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I did see that. And I mean, bravo that somebody took the idea and ran with it. I'm not sure it quite worked. I mean, because I agree with Rory that would be appropriate when you've got a big time rush situation, station platform. You know, you've either got you make a choice. Either you queue for the coffee and risk missing your train, or you forget the coffee and know you'll get your train. So if they'd done it on a platform station, a station platform, then then good, that would be interesting. But I thought outside of that environment, actually people want the opposite. They want a choice and to pick something special. You know, I don't for a minute think it was put together as a, you know, this is going to be a genuinely
You think,
successful business idea. I think it kind of made a point really nicely.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not quite sure to what end.
opportunism.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think so, and it probably raised a bit of a profile, but in a kind of funny way for me, it made me think, well, this is why marketing is a good thing, because actually we recognize people have different needs and different desires, and we make sure they get access to them. And I get the point that what Rory was saying was that a lot of commuters just need a coffee quickly, and that's fine. That's that need. But we were slightly outside that environment. So yeah, I'm not making a big. I'm not being critical, because it was a fun thing to do. Uh, but it provokes an interesting conversation.
it does. It does. Yeah, we'll see, shall we? We'll see how it goes. I think there's something. Maybe it's my perspective because I feel like I'm very straight with my coffee. I just want something simple and off I go. I'm not into the kind of fancy ones, but
Yes.
maybe I'm just a focus group of one.
Yeah, yeah,
Think
yeah,
that
yeah. Just remember, you're not the consumer.
Oh, I'm not the consumer. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I have one other thing I was going to mention, which I did send you, Paul, if we've got time, was the Coca-Cola. Well, there's the Pepsi ad. Sorry, I said the Coca-Cola ad. Freudian
Oh, there you
slip.
go. There you go. That proves the point.
Pepsi ad with the polar bears in. I don't know if
Yeah.
everyone's seen this, but the Pepsi just released an ad with the polar bears drinking Pepsi, or looking a bit jealous and forlorning at the Pepsi through the window. The polar bears are supposed to be the distinctive asset of Coca-Cola from the Christmas ads, I assume. Uh, I think so. This is the debate, right? This is the
Well, they're
debate.
not distinctive. They're not. I had no idea that Coke owned polar bears. So I don't think it's a very distinctive asset at all. That passed me completely by. I'm probably an ignoramus. I watched the ad, and I kind of got it's a taste test that had gone the wrong way, but I didn't get like that is the Coca-Cola polar bear that's mucked up.
No.
So it just felt a bit indulgent for me. I was like, it's agency land or marketing land, just
Yeah, it could
enjoying
do, couldn't it?
its own Coke.
Yeah. I literally only just saw it a couple of hours ago, so I haven't had time to really think about it. But I think because Andrew Tyndall made a point about it in the drum, Andrew Tyndall from System One, whether we make too much of kind of distinctive assets, and the whole debate around whether actually it matters really. But I think actually I had the same initial thought of you when you said to me, I didn't realise they were distinctive assets. I had to kind of look up, is this because they're in the Christmas
Yeah,
ad? So
yeah,
will people,
yeah.
would it really make the design impact? Like you said, is it a bit industry led
I think it
kind of
might be a bit
thinking?
industry
Yeah,
looking inward. I think distinctive assets clearly they've got a role to play.
yeah,
Differentiation, there's an argument, isn't there, that you can never hang on to differentiation. But just to give my own experience, and again, we're not the consumer, but I do in my head differentiate Coke from Pepsi. I see Coke as being, for some reason, sharper in terms of its taste profile, not in a bad way, just more distinct. And Pepsi, unsurprisingly, being a bit sweeter and a bit less well defined in its taste profile. But that's just me. Ask a million other people, you might get a million different answers. So I do think there is some differentiation you can do around the product. But yeah, I didn't think this quite hit the mark. I would be interested in the positioning which they were going for. Is the positioning, we're not Coke, which is not ideal. I don't think that's a brilliant positioning, because it's hard to judge the intent of the ad without knowing that. But in terms of its impact, it's probably a win. They got plenty of
Yeah.
noise. I think
Yeah.
they got out of the Super Bowl, didn't they? And
Yeah.
got everybody talking. So,
Yeah.
kudos. Result.
Well played, Pepsi. Either way, well played.
Yeah, yeah,
It's all about positioning, isn't it, Paul? That's the tension.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a violin string. It's a moment away from snapping or producing the brilliant note that just
Oh,
elevates the
love that.
soul.
You always bring it back to music. I love that. Anyway, what are you up to this week, Paul? You back from
This
Mallorca?
week, more cycling, more
Yeah.
cycling. So it's a busy week next week. But do you know what I did? I had 5 minutes and I just had a little retrospective, looking at the sort of work I've been doing over the last 18 months. And this is, it sort of runs into what I'm doing in the next week and weeks beyond. And I had a look at grouping together the work I've been doing, because it seemed to me that if I look at the problems and challenges people bring to me, that is a snapshot of what some people in the client world are seeing as challenges, and that may be or may not be representative of what others are seeing. So in the week ahead, there's going to be, because there's a lot going on. There's going to be some marketing skills, diagnostics, and capability building. That's an
Mm.
area where there's been a lot of stuff. There's some stuff around learning in the flow of work and bringing learning into the flow of work, out of the classroom, out of the self-serve environment, and bringing it to where people have got
Mm.
needs. Quite a bit of work around marketing operating models and ways of working. Quite a bit, surprise, around strategy planning and positioning, and quite a bit around the role of AI in marketing. So I'm going to be doing all those 5 things
You're doing all the
over the
above.
next, all of the
Yeah.
above. Yeah, all of the above the next week. And the brilliant thing is that they all speak to one another
Yeah.
and amplify and complement one another. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. Spinning plates, but in a really interesting and I'm going to say it, synergistic way.
Oh, that was almost agency talk then, Paul, wasn't it? Yeah.
Thank you.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I should I say thank you? I don't
Synergies.
know. How about you? What are you up to?
Well, I'm very busy at work. Got couple of big projects going on, similar to the projects I've spoken about before. But it's also, I don't know, it's also my birthday this week. Lots of celebrating around that, probably. It's probably a big concentration. So I might report back on kind of birthday behaviours and people's purchasing behaviours around my birthday next week.
Birthday behaviours. Yeah. What would you like for your birthday, or is that sort of tempting fate too much?
Well, I think it might be tempting. I mean, I'm at the age now, right? There's not much I'll really want these days, for honest pop. Yeah, there's not really much I yearn for. I've never really yearned for much, to be honest. So I'm saving up to buy a record player to have in the shed. So
Very good.
mainly something towards that, really, is kind of is what I'm going
Excellent.
for. But yeah,
Excellent. Well. Yeah. Happy birthday in advance. We can celebrate. We're seeing each other, aren't we? Face to face in a week or two.
yes, yeah, yes, let's do it. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
great
have a
stuff.
great week. I shall look forward to seeing you a year older.